My friends were and have been extraordinarily accepting about my being pagan. I'm kind of lucky that I didn't hinge my whole social life on my Mormon church. I didn't really have any good friends at church, so when I left it and became pagan, I didn't have to face the blowback some people get when coming out as pagan to more religious peers. My family, on the other hand, is a little bit more of a story, but that's a story for another thing. The only friend issue I had was when I was a senior in high school. Due to my dad taking a new job out of state and the need to sell the house at a less than opportune timing, I was living with friends for the last semester of high school. At first, it seemed great. We had a family whom I was both friends with, the older son and the parents, and they had a spare bedroom that they were willing to let out so I could finish high school there. This went well for a couple months, but then shortly after Easter, I naively asked if I could make a small altar space in the room that I was in. Now, had I known these people for roughly 7 years at this point, they knew me and my parents really well and seemed to share in our family's ideals and values. About a year before I had come out as a pagan by posting it on my Facebook, I got good reception about it, and due to me being pretty private about my religious stuff, it hadn't really come up since. But once I asked to practice at their home, just having a candle and a garden bust of Apollo that I had found at a home goods store, and a place to make small offerings, nothing intrusive, technically, they freaked out. It happened over the course of 2 days, but I was confronted by both the parents about my beliefs, literally being called a Satan worshiper and condoner of human sacrifice. Like, the fucking Bible doesn't have that. Have you heard of Abraham and Isaac, or even Jesus to that extent? And my parents and I had to kind of scramble to find a place for me. Basically, they made it clear that I wasn't welcome one more night in their house. Luckily, my best friend stepped up and his family graciously took me in. His mom, who has treated me as another son since day fucking one, didn't hesitate, and I got to live with them. Now I had to crash on their futon couch and consolidate myself to a corner of their living room, but I was so much more welcome and at home in that house. When his mom asked why I was kicked out, I simply said that I had religious differences they weren't willing to tolerate. Judy, she was fucking amazing, and just laughed at them and said, "Well, as long as you're not lighting candles and doing weird shit in my house, you're fine." And over the last couple months I spent with them, we talked about the situation a couple more times, and each time it got easier to laugh at. I'm truly grateful to their family for taking me in. I'm not sure she totally knows I'm pagan, but I think if it ever came up, she would just be as loving and as welcoming as she always has been. When I moved in with them, my parents insisted on giving her some sort of rent money for housing me. Previous family, who were much more well off than Judy by the fucking way, got offended when my parents thought that what they were doing was a kind and loving gesture of friendship. Nope. After about 2 weeks, they sidelined my parents by saying they wanted a couple $100 a month to cover whatever groceries I ate, which wasn't that much. This was after they agreed to do it. I think it was them offering when they knew, not my parents asking. And they treated it as if I was doing them a favor for their spare room. But nope. They said it was my anorexic ass was causing them financial strain by eating dinner with them. Yeah, not even kidding. So, when Judy took me in, my parents insisted on paying her something, not wanting to fall into that issue again. She really pushed back on that, truly seeing it as a favor for family, not renting out to me. Still, my parents insisted, and she eventually relented, and she was extremely gracious and generous with me staying there. She worked 2 jobs, had 2 kids in high school, and pets. Then she added me to her roster without hesitation. When I think of something being Christ-like or following any sort of morality that Christianity calls for, Judy is whom I think of, not the other ones. As much of a struggle and frustrating situation as that was, it was very telling to my family and myself about what that other family was like. They said they were disappointed at how lesser my family's morals were compared to theirs, but after the fact, my mom said that she and my dad were more shocked at how intolerant and judgmental they ended up being. I'm not saying our family was asking for a handout when it came to that situation, and I'm sorry if it sounds like that. But the agreement they made and backpedaling on it um, was a shock and a huge stress on my parents, who were still trying to adjust with moving states away and selling their house. Again, I'm very lucky that that was the worst of my friends' reactions to me being pagan. The rest of my friends have been absolutely lovely. I even have two friends, Max and Tonks, who are on the witchy side of paganism. They're not super active, but they like the aesthetic at least, and are two people I can gush about paganism and witch stuff together. I messaged them together on Sabbats and Esbats. Yes, I follow that calendar. I will explain it another time. And Tonks always says, I like how I'm the witch and you somehow know the holidays better than I do. To which I reply, yep, it's just my thing. Very recently, I had to put my dog down. While it was very, very draining and emotional experience for my fiance and I, it had to be done. Another story I'll get into another time. But because I'm very private about my religion and no one in my life is of the same beliefs, I haven't had anyone besides my fiance to express my thoughts about it to. And that's been really hard for me over the past year because I've also lost two of my grandparents. My grandma died not even a month before my dog. So my emotions have been quite raw for a while. But when talking to my best friend, Judy's son, I broke and just mentioned how the gods have been with me and how much it's been holding me together. And this man, who helped me leave Mormonism just by being an atheist himself, told me that he wasn't going to judge me for my beliefs and was very supportive of how helpful it's been for me. Really, I can't express how grateful I am to have these amazing people in my life. There's one last person I haven't talked about, and that's my fiance, soon to be wife. We have been together for almost as long as I have been pagan. I think Aphrodite had a hand in getting us together, and many of the other gods were tantamount in keeping us together through the years we've dealt with. But truly, M has been a fucking amazing friend to me and was one of the first people I came out to as pagan. They have been so supportive and loving about it. Listening to my manic ramblings about my beliefs and about mythology, being the only person I knew I could come to about my beliefs, and even being very encouraging when I wanted to set up altars and decorate our apartment with my pagan stuff. Hands down, they have been the best. And over the past year, as I've been getting more comfortable with practicing my beliefs around them, they've grown an interest in general pagan stuff to an extent. It's become something we can share with each other and bond over. I'm not a proponent of converting someone, but I've just been as encouraging and supportive to M with their growing interest in things as they've been with mine. When we were going through the loss of our dog, and still are right now, they've shared their love and support for my beliefs and said some things that have made me feel so much more validated. When discussing how to commemorate our dog when we got his ashes back, I mentioned getting a small garden statue of his breed that we could have on a shelf we put his ashes on. When I said I was worried that it would seem too altar-y and didn't want to impress my beliefs on her experience with mourning and remembering him, she said, the gods guided him and are taking care of him. I think altar-y is very appropriate. That made me break down crying, just knowing they are so accepting and supportive. I'm going in circles to say about the same thing about them, but really, I love you, M, and thank you. Anyway, thanks for listening.